Hello and welcome to WhyZ, and this is my full review for Boruto Manga Chapter 67. Now, I'll be honest with y'all, when I read the spoilers for this chapter for the very first time, I was kind of disappointed with the immediate revival of Boruto's Maki, specifically after considering what happened in the previous chapter. But now with the grand scheme of things and all the context at hand, I do feel like this chapter is much better than I initially anticipated it to be, and it really makes a lot of sense considering what exactly happens here. But before talking about all of these things, hello and welcome to WhyZ, and thank you so much for joining in. If you're new here, then please consider subscribing to our channel since I do weekly anime and manga related content along with a bunch of other stuff. With that being said, let's just jump into it, and of course, a manga spoiler warning in advance for all the anime only fans. Now basically, I'm not going to go in depth over the Kawaki versus Code fight. It remains one of the most central focus for this entire chapter. I'm going to go over some of the plot points or key details which have been discussed here specifically in regards to this fight and what it means for the characters of Code and Kawaki moving forward. Therefore, I'm not going to go in a breakdown of the entire fighting scene. You can see more of it in my livestream video where I've gone over the entire chapter. So basically what happens here is that we begin this chapter right where we left last month, and Naruto is completely shocked. He's in a complete trance here. No matter what's happening in the background, no matter what Shikamaru is telling him, he's oblivious to all of these things because right in front of him is the limp body of his son, who is presumed to be dead because he's having a huge gaping wound, a huge gaping hole in the middle of his chest in a very similar manner to Neji. I was not able to catch that reference in the last chapter, but it's very much similar to the death of Neji as well. So keeping this thing in mind, obviously Naruto is having a very difficult time to deal with all of these things. This is a very sad situation, and this is something which no parent should actually go through. So this is quite understandable, and I'm quite glad that we are finally showing some much needed emotions from Naruto beyond just anger. I was very disappointed with how Kurama's death was handled in the manga last year. I mean, it happened last year in the month of February only, so it's been exactly 1 year since Naruto is experiencing these things once again. I mean, not in terms of the series, 1 year has not gone by in terms of the series, but in real world, in real time, in our world, 1 year has gone by since that particular incident. So yeah, it's a very good parallel, and at the same time I'm just glad that we are seeing some much needed emotions from Naruto, wherein he's sort of basically having a mental breakdown right here. This was very reminiscent of Luffy's breakdown after the death of his brother as well, and these things, these small nudges, this is really good in my opinion, and it also plays a very significant part, a significant role in this entire chapter, specifically how he deals with Shikamaru's words as well later on, because Shikamaru, being the more level-headed character, is trying to remind Naruto that, hey Naruto, I understand that this is very difficult for you, but you are the Hokage, we have to do something here at this very moment. That is quite understandable, and both of the point of views are very much important here. Some people might say that Shikamaru is being an absolute ass here by trying to stop Naruto from grieving for his son, but at the same time, it's quite important because he is the advisor to the Hokage, and it's basically his role to ensure the safety of the village. And on the other hand, we know that Naruto is not exactly the same as the previous Hokages. He is much more emotional, and it doesn't matter if he's an adult, it doesn't matter how much matured he has become. This is the apparent death of his son. At this moment in time, he's not aware that Boruto is going to come back to life, so it really makes for a very compelling moment, and I might go in depth over this particular interaction or this particular point of view, clash in point of views between Shikamaru and Naruto, and what it might be for the future of this series, because I do believe, or at least it has been my thinking for a while, that Naruto and Shikamaru's point of views and world views are going to collide sometime in the future, and the seeds for that has already been sown, specifically with the character of Kawaki and how both of them differ in how it should be handled or how things should be taken forward. So while all of this is happening, basically Kawaki versus Code continues because Code is being attacked by Kawaki here, but in the midst of all of that, Code is also in a direct contact with Ada, and things are basically very unfortunate for both of them because they assume that Boruto is dead. And obviously this is a very dire situation even for them, because for them Boruto was a living sacrifice, a living Otsutsuki vessel who could be sacrificed for the Jubi, for the 10 tails. But now it seems like Boruto has been lost. They have lost that opportunity, and the only other person remaining here would be Kawaki. But the problem here is with the fact that Kawaki is someone whom Ada loves, so she's not going to just give up on her prince. So there's sort of like an ideological warfare happening between these two characters, which sort of go more hand in hand, specifically in the later half of the chapter. But for now, seeing all of these things at hand, Code tries to retreat. He tosses Shikamaru away and he uses his claw marks to try to escape. But unfortunately, Kawaki notices it and he uses the Sukuna Hikona to shrink down these claw marks, and therefore he has stopped Code from escaping into the other dimension, into the other field wherein Ada is actually present. So this is a very interesting take, because this basically begins the final battle between Kawaki and Code. Now here a lot of things happened, and I'm really glad by the way in which action has been depicted here in this particular chapter. From Code's transformations to Kawaki's transformations, this is very much dynamic and it is properly utilizing the dojutsus of these characters. At the same time, the karma mark is also utilized very well, and I was for the very first time really surprised with the way the claw marks are actually being presented here. This was a really good way to showcase the unique abilities of Code, and even though he's much weaker than we initially anticipated him to be, because Kawaki has literally surpassed Code, at least here in this particular moment. He later on obviously admits to himself that he needs to remove the limiter from himself and he needs the help of Amado in this particular regard, but at least in the current state, Kawaki is far surpassing Code, at least in terms of raw power. And it is only via the intervention of Daemon that Kawaki is finally taken down, because at the very last moment before a huge explosion is being done by Kawaki, Code brings out Daemon, who was still sleeping, from the lap of Ada, and because of his mirror reflection ability, Kawaki is absolutely knocked out because he takes the blunt force of his own attack. He is out cold and he is almost like a lifeless body laying on the ground. And while all of these things are happening in the background, Naruto is being confronted by Shikamaru over his duties as the Hokage. Now, as I said before, this is a very interesting parallel, and these two point of views are going to collide once again, because here at this moment in the story, even though Kawaki has still quote unquote killed Boruto, even now Naruto is not ready to give up on Kawaki. He's like, we can't just abandon Kawaki. You're not just telling me to abandon him from Konoha. He did what he did because it was the decision of Boruto as well. But Shikamaru denies here, and in fact we also get a confirmation about it here from Kawaki himself, because it's not just that he's doing this because Boruto is his brother. Rather, it is his fascination and in a way obsession over Naruto which has compelled him to do something like this. He's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect the Nanaraime. It doesn't matter if I need to kill my brother. It doesn't matter if I need to kill anyone else for that matter. I am going to protect Lord 7th no matter what takes place, and because of that I'm also going to kill you, Code, right here. And all of this was obviously happening while they were fighting. And on the topic of their own fight, I'm really glad that Daemon finally showed up. I'm still not a huge fan of his design overall, don't get me wrong, I just hate his design for some reason, but yeah, his abilities are too overpowered and Shikamaru is just, he's basically speechless. He's like, what the hell is happening here? What is this kid? What is he doing here at this moment? Because Daemon sort of half appears out of the claw marks of Code and half of his body is still on the lap of Ada. So only just his upper half is able to reflect this huge move of Kawaki, and this is a very scary ability, let me tell you all that. It's going to be interesting to see who is eventually going to face Daemon later on down the road. My initial assumption was obviously Mitsuki, but let's see what eventually happens to the future of this series, because Mitsuki has not been built at all. So yeah, that's something which we need to discuss later on. But subsequently enough, Code has been finally able to take down Kawaki. He still checks upon Kawaki to make sure that he's not dead, because Ada is like, I'll kill you if my prince is actually dead, so you need to make sure that Kawaki is alive. And after all of this has actually happened, Code escapes using his claw marks once again. So this marks the end of Code and Kawaki's fight. Code is sort of the victor here, obviously via the disruption caused by Daemon. but it also demonstrates to us that Code here at this moment is not at his full strength. He needs his limiters off, so it's going to be interesting to see what eventually happens for Code when he removes his limiter from his actual body. But is Amado even actually going to do that? Who knows? I'll ask this question to you guys. What do you guys think about all of these things? Please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think Amado is actually going to help Code or not? But moving forward, the most important and interesting part of this chapter comes around here at this moment when Boruto's death is taking a huge toll on Naruto, and he's just crying and crying and crying, and he's just in a state of absolute shock. He's like, tell me this is wrong, tell me this is a dream, this can't be happening, Boruto can't be dead, Oi, you can't be dead. But while all of this is happening, Boruto just somehow wakes up. He wakes up and he's like, don't assume that I'm dead already. And this makes everyone absolutely surprised. Shikamaru is like, how can he be even alive? We can literally see the wound in his chest. And it was at that moment when we get the final flashback of Momoshiki appearing in front of Boruto. Now this entire part is very important, because 2-3 different things happen here at this particular moment. The first major revelation is that Momoshiki saved the life of Boruto, but this was a one-time only deal. It's done and dusted now. He can't save Boruto anymore. So the first thing here is that he has healed the wounds of Boruto, but it's not a direct healing factor which has been used here. Rather, 82% of Momoshiki's Otsutsukification had already taken place in Boruto, and in order to reincarnate in his true sense, he needed the remaining 18% to be decompressed as well, or de-Otsutsukified as well. But at this moment, if Boruto had died, the entire thing would have been for nothing. He would have been vessel-less, and his soul, in a similar manner to Ishiki Otsutsuki, would have just simply ceased to exist. Because the vessel is not just a physical manifestation for the body of an Otsutsuki, but rather it is also an anchor to the real world, to the living world also. So that's why the vessel in the form of Boruto is important for him. And that's why he has used the remaining 18% of the Otsutsuki DNA to transform it and make it into Boruto's own DNA, to cultivate, or rather recultivate, the tissue which was destroyed from his heart and lungs. And that's why his body has been finally healed. But he tells Boruto not to be happy at this moment, because even though his revival, his reincarnation has been stopped for now, it also means that right now at this very moment Boruto has transformed into 100% Otsutsuki. He has ceased to become a normal human being. He's 100% an Otsutsuki now. So this itself is a very interesting thing. Although I have a very huge fear about it as well in regards to the entire Kurama situation, but I'm gonna talk about that in a separate video, stay tuned for that. But for now, it is revealed that Boruto has been healed by Momoshiki. He has been saved by Momoshiki because he is the vessel of Momoshiki, and because of all of these things, he has transformed into 100% Otsutsuki as well. And this is only going to be the start of his troubles, because now that he has become 100% Otsutsuki, he's going to be a perfect fodder, a perfect food for the Ninetales. So Code, Ada and the others are obviously going to keep hunting out for him. And this is probably where I think Sasuke is going to appear. I mean, the man has been MIA since a very long time, and I feel like this would be the correct moment for him to actually appear. And the same goes for Jogan, but I guess I need to make a separate discussion for Jogan and whether it's even going to happen here at this moment or not. We are really on a copium ride for Jogan, and it's going to be interesting to see where it eventually unfolds for us. And the last bit, the very last bit, is that Momoshiki's prophecy is still going on. It's not stopped at the literal death of Boruto. We all thought that maybe Boruto's death would be the final prophecy about those blue eyes are going to take away everything from you, but seems like the prophecy is still continuing. It's not just stopping at Boruto's apparent death. It's going to be much more grave, much more sinister, and Momoshiki is just having a laugh here at this moment that Omoshiroi, this is going to be interesting to watch, and I am intrigued by all of these things. So basically that's it. Boruto has been revived, and even though I would have loved to see this happen maybe 2-3 chapters down the road, but I still do understand what the writers are basically doing here at this particular moment. And I'd say that on a first glance, This chapter is much better than what I initially assumed it to be, specifically based on the summary and specifically based on the spoilers. So this is it for this video. This is it for Boruto Manga Chapter 67. I know I have omitted some of the other stuff from this chapter. I'm going to make follow-up videos to all of these things. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification to stay notified whenever I upload those follow-up videos. Till then, this is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more. This is WhyZ, and I'll see you all on the next one. In the meantime, be sure to join the channel membership and the Discord server for more.